Hey, hello. This is our first live Q&A session. I actually recorded this session two times before. One time in Prague, and there was some kind of weird YouTube process and error. It really didn't work. And earlier today, and I don't know, there was again problems with the audio and video, so I decided to do it one more time. Give this one more shot to see if this is actually going to work. And basically, what I do here is I just answer any questions that you may have. My name is Wade Shepard. I'm a I've been traveling for about 19 years through like almost 90 countries, and I make my money as a journalist, as an author, as a filmmaker, and I just basically just travel around the world, researching things that I find interesting, and just doing these kind of kind of fun projects, and publish articles and write books, and vlog, and sometimes work on documentary projects. So any questions that you may have about any of this, you can either ask me directly live now through this live feed, and I'll be able to see it on my laptop right here, or send to me later by email or a comment, or Twitter, Facebook, or any other way that you can find me. Anyway, let's get to it. The first question comes from Georgi Romanov. He says, I want to start a career as a journalist, just like you. I want to ask your advice about video. I am at the beginning of a journey and do not make money from journalism. I have a technique that gives good quality, but is inconvenient to use. While I hold on to the strategy of shooting on what you have, not what you want, but I have a lot of doubts about this. Okay, now there's really two parts to this question. The first is I want a career as a traveling journalist. How do I do that? And the other part is about gear, more or less. Does gear really matter? So to start off, first of all, it's really hard to give advice on how to become, how to be a traveling writer or filmmaker, because it's I don't know. There really is no prescribed path. I can tell you how I did it, but I don't know how replicatable that is. I mean, I really got lucky, to be honest. Basically, what I did is I started out blogging, just blogging on my own website, and this was I started around 2004, 2005 or so. So it was a real different climate, right? Like back in those days, Google's algorithms were different, so that you really could make a living, and a pretty decent living, just blogging on your own website and just collecting ad revenue. I mean, there was a lot of people that traveled the world, like living off their revenue from their blog back then. That's not so common today. As I said, Google changed up their algorithm, started giving less traffic to independent sites and give it more traffic towards big brands, and it kind of wiped out an entire ecosystem of traveling journalists, independent journalists, and traveling bloggers and all that. Now I still make about $1,000 per month off my blog, but that's not really enough to live on. So I don't know. However, kind of doing this independent website and doing these projects independently, it gave me the opportunity to just go out and just do the projects that I thought were interesting, and the things that I thought was important. First of all, this was important because it gave me a chance to kind of cultivate, my art, cultivate my skills of, being a traveling journalist. And secondly, it gave me kind of this living portfolio of what I can do, what I knew, what I experienced, what I had knowledge in, that other people could easily find, right? And eventually, I was kind of plucked out of the ether. This rather well-known author, found me, offered me a book deal. I did the book, did well, and now I'm kind of that created a lot of new opportunities for me, and now I'm kind of where I am now, many years later. So the biggest advice that I can give you, or the best advice I can give you, is just go out and do it, right? I mean, because nobody is going to give you a job, as an international journalist, fresh off the boat, right? You're not going to walk into a newspaper and say, hey, I want to, go to this country and be a journalist and have you pay me just because I really want to do it and I think I'll do a good job. No, you need something to show. You need, either a portfolio of your work, or, some kind of reel and video, that you can say, hey, this is what I do. This is what I know. This is what I've experienced. And this is what I want to do for you. And this is why I'll be good at it. And this is how I can make you money. So basically, In order to get that experience, as I said, you just need to go out and just do it. And that doesn't mean just going out and shooting anything and hoping that'll work, but kind of wisely and intelligently selecting topics to develop expertise in. The reason why I got to where I am wasn't because I was, necessarily good or better or the best. It was because I picked good topics. My first topic was about China's ghost cities, and this was kind of a phenomenon that not many people knew much about. Especially at that time, China's new cities, China's urban development. So I went out to these places. I spent about 2 years 2.5 years traveling to them, and I found out all about them. To the point that I could say confidently that I knew or I know more about these places than pretty much anybody else in the world, right? And having and becoming kind of a clear authority on a topic like that people are interested in, that there's a lot of like misconceptions about, it kind of makes the content that you're creating about them valuable, useful, and that's kind of what it's all about, creating something of value that other people also find um, valuable, or at least interesting, right? So Georgie, from your last name, it seems like you are Russian, or at least speak Russian. There's a lot going on in the post-Soviet world right now that there's a lot of misconceptions about, that a lot of people don't know too much about, that a lot of journalists aren't really going out and finding out about. So therefore, there's kind of a lot of opportunities for you to say, hey, I'm going to become the expert, or I'm going to become an authority on this aspect of, this country, or this phenomenon, or this movement, or this, aspect of, economic aspect or political aspect, and then going out on the ground, recording, video that nobody else is getting, writing stories that nobody else is writing, and becoming, the guy, the blank guy, I don't know, I became, the Ghost Cities guy, and then later on I became, the New Silk Road guy, and that's kind of what you want to become, right? Not really, brand yourself by, your name or like who you are, but kind of brand yourself on, what you know, right? And what you developed expertise in. And having these topics, I can't tell you how important it is, but having these topics that you are the authority on is like way more important. Well, just as important as having skill. Because I mean, you can have all the skill in the world in video and storytelling and journalism and not really get anywhere if you're not selecting the right topics to cover. The right topics to cover is the stuff that people want to know about. The people that, the topics that people are willing to give you money, to consult on, to give them information about valuable information, and information that's a little bit tough or expensive for other journalists or other news agencies to actually go out and get, right? It's expensive, for big news agencies to send their reporters out on the ground, right? And their margins are becoming ever slimmer, in big corporate media. So they're not sending people out to actually travel to places as often as they used to. So that's where like us travelers can kind of come in and kind of, I don't want to say undercut the market, but provide a service that's not really being done. So there's a lot of opportunities out there if you're just willing to go out on your own, develop skills, and kind of just do the work that you imagine doing. I mean, living the job that you like, daydream about living, and just doing it on your own independently. Because as I said, there's nobody else out there that's going to give you that opportunity. That's something that you really just gotta take for yourself. And the second part of your question was about gear. You said, well, hold on to the strategy on shooting on what you have, not on what you want. But I have doubts about this. Yeah, those are some pretty good doubt. I mean, that's a really good statement to doubt, because I mean, especially looking on YouTube. There's a lot of YouTubers that say things like, "Oh yeah, gear doesn't matter." You can shoot a movie on an iPhone and all that, and then next week they're buying a new camera, right? I'm going to tell you right now, gear does matter, and I speak from experience here because I spent a lot of time. I wasted a lot of projects. I didn't document a lot of things properly because I was using shitty gear, right? I thought that gear didn't matter, that I can just go out and, document things or record things that were happening on my phone. And it turns out later on I learned a little bit more about video and what actually constitutes, quality video. And I realized that, hey, for years and years, what I shot was absolute crap that I can't even really use it today. Nobody can really use it today, right? And a lot of these things that I was shooting are things that were in, rapid transition and rapid flux that you can't go back and reshoot. It's done, right? Nobody else is filming, some of this stuff, and I just completely buggered it because I always thought that I could use crappy equipment because I didn't properly invest in my art and I didn't properly invest the money in myself to get quality equipment that I could produce, quality, material with. So yeah, don't cut corners with gear. And what is great, it's like, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, if you wanted to get a rig of professional video equipment, you were going to spend, 15, $20,000. I mean, it would have been expensive because the gap between, professional level video equipment and like consumer level video equipment was just it was really vast, man. Now we have this middle ground, this prosumer, category where you can buy, professional quality, cinema quality, Hollywood quality cameras for not that much money at all. The camera that I'm shooting this live stream on now is a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K. This is a Hollywood level camera, right? That I bought for $1,300, like dirt cheap, And this camera here, this is the original Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. Like, it's $1,000 camera, but you can find them used now on eBay for $300, right? I mean, Hollywood movies have been shot on this camera here, this little camera here. And so, it's just so cheap, right? It's like so cheap now to get like, professional level equipment that there's really no excuse not to have it, or at least price isn't an excuse. And you don't need, you don't really need, a Blackmagic Ursa Mini Pro, right? This is like a $5,000 camera, and even $5,000 is still cheap for the quality of video that this camera is going to get you. If you wanted to, go out and be serious about shooting documentaries, this is what you would use, because this is probably, in my opinion, as far as like the video quality and, the aesthetics of the video that come out of this thing, this is like probably the best, documentary film camera or like digital film camera that you can possibly get, right? But you don't need that. You can go with the, Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera 4K, $1,300, man. That's nothing if you're talking about a career or a profession that you want to do, like with your life, and to produce content that you can sell and make money and kind of cultivate a life off of. I would say, man, for like the cost of a complete filmmaking rig that you can travel around with, that's lightweight, that's versatile for like running gun shooting, you're looking at probably around $2,000 minimum, $2,500, right? What do you need? I would suggest two cameras. I have the Blackmagic Cinema Camera 4K and the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera. These cameras are actually like pretty different from each other as far as form factor and even the quality of the video, but you can still mesh them together, right? These two cameras, you can get both of these. Like I said, you can get this one on eBay for $300 now. Well, these cameras $1,600, man. That's all you need as far as filming equipment, and then as far as lights, you need a few lights, right? Like daytime temperature LED lights, dirt cheap, man. You're looking at $150 for lights. Audio equipment, that's probably another $300-400. I'm doing the audio on this video on a Zoom H5 recorder that's fed directly into the camera, and I also use a Zoom F1 field recorder. I have mixed feelings about this. It's actually kind of a noisy recorder, actually, but I'm still using it. It's borderline on whether it's usable or not. And I hook a lav mic up to this. When I do interviews with people, hook the lav mic up to this, put this in their pocket, and then I record what they're saying via, on the camera with the H5 Zoom H5 recorder. So then I have 2 audio tracks to work with. And I also, depending on the situation, I also have, this Rode NTG1, shotgun mic. This is an excellent microphone powered with phantom power. I can plug it into the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 4K directly, but I can plug it into the H5 recorder directly. Excellent microphone. Then this mic is only, I think I paid $200 for it, $250, something like that. But this is going to give you professional quality audio, right? And what else? A bag, $100 for a bag to carry it in. I use this bag right here. But ultimately, man, a computer, man, you need a laptop to edit video on. That's a given. That's absolutely necessary, right? I use a kind of an older model, MacBook Pro, which is still pretty good. 2015 model, picked up like $1,600, right? New. Even though it's a 2015 model, they're still making these things new today. So I got that. That's basically all you need, man. You're talking like $2,000, $2,500, $3,000 to invest into equipment. And if you kind of look at how much money people spend to go to college, right? Or how much money they spend on books to go to college or something like that. The amount of money to buy professional rig of filmmaking gear, it's just really not much. And then once you have this gear, once you own your own gear, you can just go out and practice. Practice filming, practice editing, practice putting yourself in situations where you're able to observe and film stuff that's interesting to actually make engaging content off of. Practice doing interviews, practice making connections to set up interviews, practice doing projects, and just basically pretend that you're for real, right? Pretend that you are working as part of some, pretend to yourself. Don't lie to people, but but pretend that you are working for major. Just take yourself seriously, man. Just go out and practice, right? And eventually you will get better, and hopefully at some point you will have enough work under your belt and enough skills under your belt to actually go out and try to get a job or contracts to do freelance assignments or whatever else. You're probably looking at at least 2 years to actually get the skills to do this, because this stuff it's not easy, man. Like as I said, it took me 10 years, right? It took me 10 years of practice to get to a level where I was good enough to do this work professionally. So it's kind of a long road. It is kind of like going to college. There's years and years of preparation to get to where you want to go. Just buy a camera, show up on site and think you're going to produce something good enough to sell. It's just not going to happen. Shit's pretty complicated. All right, on to the next question. Raph asks, your videos are great, but how do you do it? I am in college right now, and I don't think I will have enough money and time to travel and have a life like you do. That reminds me of kind of an interesting story. Well, maybe it's not that interesting. But when I was a young traveler, maybe 19 years old, and I'm staying in this hostel in Santiago, Chile. I'm partying with this guy who's about 35, late 30s, whatever. On a business trip in Santiago, he chose to slum it and stay in this, cheapo hotel where I was staying. And he was telling me these stories, about how he was this young backpacker when he was in his teens and early 20s, traveled around the world and did all kinds of stupid shit. And this guy was like, yeah, back then I had more time than money. Now I have more money than time. So I see what you're saying, man. No, I really do. And that's kind of a delicate balance that you kind of need to work out in life, to have enough money to live well, that you can get from a job, and also having enough time to travel and enjoy yourself and do all that. What I did, I combined the two. I turned, travel, my passion, my lifestyle, the way that I lived, into my job. So they're one and the same, one and the same. They're inseparable. I couldn't imagine, traveling somewhere and not working, right? Not, collecting content, not interviewing people, not, asking questions, right? Well, sometimes I do that for a day or two, then I get kind of bored. But you know what I mean? And I also couldn't imagine working and not traveling, right? Not, being able to go places, see new things, going into the same place every day. I just never lived like that. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Just I just never lived that way. And it's, I mean, you're in college now, so you're kind of like, seeing all these, like, I mean, it's almost like when you're in college, like, looking through like this, you know, this magazine of like different lifestyles, this proverbial magazine of different lifestyles, and you're kind of like picking out which one you want to have for yourself, careers, majors, areas of study, and just how you want to live. And that's kind of a cool place to be in. I remember when I was in that place, and I decided, hey, there, right there, in this proverbial brochure of careers and lifestyles, the traveler, that's what I want to be, and I selected that. However, being a traveler means that, or selecting any lifestyle, means that it's at the expense of every other lifestyle. I mean, you can't have everything. Like that, that ex-backpacker in, the hostel in Santiago was pretty much telling me, hey, you can't have it all, right? I mean, you can do anything, but you can't do everything. I chose to travel, which means I don't have a house. I don't own a car. I don't have insurance. I don't have any semblance of security. I don't have retirement. I don't have, I'm not paying any social security. All these things that are really important, really nice things that someone can have for their lives. I don't have it. I chose to sacrifice that because I wanted, to live a lifestyle of traveling and collecting content and writing and making videos and just basically doing what I was, ultimately passionate about. And sometimes, I think he always was this, well, I don't ever ask myself what was the best move. I know it's the best move because there's really no other way, because I selected, this is what I want to do in my life, and that's what I did. But I recognize that, there's other ways of life that are pretty good too. But if I chose those ways of life, if I chose, having a nice career and security and retirement fund and investments and all this other stuff, I wouldn't be able to travel and basically do whatever I want. That just wouldn't be possible. So, no, it's give and take, man. All right. Next question. Next question comes from Saeed. Saeed says, well, he asked, I was doing some research on the Belt and Road Initiative, the New Silk Road, which is this it's this kind of like a pan-Eurasian, Europe and Asian and Africa array of new urbanization and development projects that are really changing the physical and political and economic layout of countries between China and Europe, and even down to Africa and the Middle East. It's threatening cultures, threatening the environment, creating more economic opportunities and whatever. I mean, the entire region is in drastic transition and flux. That's actually what my second book was about. That spent about 3 years working on. But anyway, he's asking he says he's doing some research on the Belt and Road Initiative and came across my books. What really intrigued me is how your lifestyle of constant What really intrigued me is your lifestyle of constant travel and on the ground research. I personally have been struggling to find a career path to let me do the exact same thing. I am an avid backpacker, but also passionate about researching New Silk Road projects, so I can combine them by traveling along the New Silk Road transit routes and stop by projects, but it's difficult to do it professionally. I was hoping I can get some advice from you about how I could combine traveling and research. That's kind of a similar question to the other ones. And basically, man. I mean, it's tough to do this cold turkey, right? Because you can't just call up a project and say, "Hey, I'm some dude who has, no resume and no writing CV and has no connection to no media sources, and I want to come and take up your time and have you tell me all about this project." That's not going to work. They won't meet with you. So I say first cultivate your skills, cultivate your research skills, then cultivate your credentials, right? who are you writing for? Who are you producing content for? Who are you doing this research for? Because that's really your way in. I mean, at this point, I kind of, cultivated, an identity within this topic. So I could be like, yo, I'm Wade Shepard. I want to come visit your project, blah, blah, blah. And they will meet with me and give me what I want. But that they can only do that because I spent 3 years, working on this, right? In the beginning, it was like, hi, I'm a reporter for Forbes. I want to come and do a story on your project, right? But I had that connection to a major media organization. And it was really that major media organization at first that they're letting in through the door and not me, personally, right? So in order to kind of do an upper level project like this, you kind of need some kind of connection, some kind of authority, you need your bona fides, man, so you can't just go out there and just expect to that people are going to meet with you and give you access to things that the public doesn't have access to just because you want to do it. So I'll say, yeah, first things first, cultivate the skills and cultivate the connections and build connections with news organizations or whatever that you can produce content for. And if you call a lot of these research organizations, such as the Center of Strategic and International Studies in Washington D.C., a lot of think tanks, they're looking for whatever content, whatever data, whatever on the ground information that people can cultivate because they pool all this stuff together in their research. So if you call up one of these research institutes, say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I've done before, this is what I can do, and I want to go out and do this for you and visit these places and research these topics. Will you support me? Or will you work in partnership with me? And if you have some kind of bona fides or something to show, portfolio or something, some kind of experience to show that you have the skills, to actually, do this, a lot of them will actually play ball. But having that connection to an organization or something that is bigger than yourself is really important to kind of open those doors. And yeah, let's start from the ground up, man. Start from the ground up. And I kind of stressed this a little bit, but it took me a lot of time to get to where I am. I didn't, as I said before, I didn't just pick up a camera and automatically become somewhat successful at this. It took years, man. It took years and years of building the skills, and I'm still building the skills. I'm still I still feel like I'm still at the grassroots level. I feel that yeah, I've had a little bit of success, but there's still a long way to go. I'm not even close to being there. I'm still looking up, at the summit of the mountain that's just way up there somewhere. I mean, I've gotten closer to it than most people, but I'm not there yet. I'm still learning. Okay, we'll do one more question for this session. This is also a question from Georgie Romanoff. How do you stay motivated and walk your path? Ooh, we're getting philosophical here, man. How do I stay motivated? I stay motivated just because I absolutely love what I do, A. And B, I have no idea what I would be doing if I wasn't doing this, right? It's not that I can't even think of another job or another way of life or another profession that I would want to do, right? So it's both I'm doing what I like and, I don't know of any other alternative. I've never done anything else, man. I left home at 18 and I just started traveling, and doing odd jobs and all kinds of crap at first. And then I became an archaeologist, and I did that for a good 8 years. And then I started writing, and that led me to where I'm at now, 37 years old. Just haven't done anything but travel, right? So, yeah. So I guess I stay motivated because I don't know what the alternative is. However, that's also the fact. I mean, to speak more, to give something a little more concrete that you can kind of grab onto. I mix it up, like I do project work. So there's never anything that I'm just doing forever, on and on and on for years and years and years. Like it's never the same thing. Yeah, I'm always traveling. Yeah, I'm always doing projects, but these projects change, right? Like I said, I mean, in the early days, I was writing about, kind of travel, lifestyle, kind of backpacker stuff, culture stuff, a lot of cultural and like anthropology research. And then I kind of moved into research in China's ghost cities that transformed it to, writing, traveling the New Silk Road between China and Europe. And then I did all kinds of other, smaller projects, in this time period. And then now I'm doing more personal stories now, but there's like a strong protagonist. Somebody's trying to do something, accomplish something, fight against something, and having a mix of projects and a mix of stories to work on all the time really keeps things fresh. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful than a good project, right? Because you start out in the beginning, the initial stages is different than the mid stages, different than the end stages. The beginning is just so exciting, right? You're starting something new, you're researching something new, you're meeting new people, you're traveling to new places. And you kind of dive into it and you're doing the work and just become completely enmeshed and absorbed in doing the work. And then at the end, you're kind of putting together the final product, the content. And then after that, you produce the content, and you have to promote it, and you have to talk about it, right? So at every stage of the process of doing these projects is something different, right? There's new challenges, there's new things to learn, there's new things to, absorb and engage and to have fun with, basically. I mean, the process of each project is roughly the same between all the projects I've ever done. However, there's like different stages for each one. And at the end, you can go on and do something new, right? At the end of a lot of my projects, I've been kind of sick of them. I'm sick of talking about China's ghost cities. I'm sick of talking about the New Silk Road, right? So I move on to different things, right? And that keeps things fresh. It keeps you moving around the world, keeps you going to new regions, meeting new people, learning and researching new topics. And it just keeps everything really fresh all the time. And it keeps you mentally consumed, with your project, with your passion, what you are working on. And when you're mentally consumed with something, man, you're motivated. It gives you a reason to wake up in the morning. It gives you something to do. It gives you something to think about when you go to bed. It gives you something to be, pissed off about. It gives you something to, get frustrated over. But it keeps you engaged, right? And that engagement to what you are doing is probably one of the things that I like most about this lifestyle and this work that I do, is that it's just absolute obsessive engagement all the time, right? And yeah, it's one of the things I love about it, and that's what keeps me motivated. Anyway, if anybody else does anybody have any other questions? Okay. Looks like we're good. All right, I'm gonna try to do this Q&A session at least once a week or whenever a good question comes in. Feel free to ask me questions about anything, about travel, about writing, about making videos, gear, equipment. A lot of shit to say about all of it. So, so send those questions in. I'll answer them next week. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching.